Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Sisters Keeper podcast, where we discuss how having a core group of women surrounding you as you navigate some of the important moments of your life's journey is vitally important for all women. I am your host, Dr. C, and for this episode, I have the extreme pleasure of having Miss Dani B with me. Good afternoon, Miss Dani. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Welcome to the Sisters Keeper podcast. And on this podcast, we talk about issues that are germane to women, some things that may come across our life's journey. And so today we want to talk about a very delicate but important topic
Mhm.
of losing a spouse, specifically the death of a spouse. So let's jump right into the interview. And my first question for you, Miss Dani, is how long had you and your dear husband been married at the time of his passing?
My husband and I, Gerard Burton, we were married over 25 years at the time of
Awesome.
passing. Yes, over.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know what? When I hear you talk about him, I can feel the love exude from you. So tell us a little bit about the relationship that you shared with your husband.
Ooh, beautiful relationship. Gerard and I met in 95. He proposed to me 2 months after meeting me with a ring. And I said yes. It took me about 5.5 months to plan a 250 guest wedding with 36, wedding party of 36. So we married 8 months after meeting.
Wow. So would you say love at first sight?
Definitely, because I had been praying. Although I was 21 when I met him, I had, based on my life, I had already been praying, for my mate. So it was really interesting. He just swept me off my feet, actually. So it's you see, I'm smiling. Yeah, it was love at first sight, and we were good, great partners. Fun, funny, did everything together, worked together. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And like I said, when I hear you talk about him, that same energy, that same spirit that you have right now is what I've always seen. So thank you so much for sharing briefly about your relationship. Now, an important question, because when people hear about someone losing their spouse, it's always that question of, was the spouse ill? What did they have? Were they afflicted with some type of sickness, or
Mhm.
was it something that was completely unexpected?
Well, Gerard had some health issues. He had an aortic aneurysm in 2014. It was his blood pressure was 237 over 124 when we went to the hospital, and
Wow.
that was they had already started talking about doing a open heart surgery. His aortic aneurysm was a B dissection, which is that's the main aorta of where that connects the heart. And
Mhm.
because his was descending, they kept him in the cardiac ICU for 11 days.
Wow.
And if it would have been ascending at the top, he would have went on and had the surgery immediately. They were able to get his blood pressure under wraps, and thank God he did not at that time have the open heart surgery. He was on about 7 medications. 2019, he did have a stroke. In between all of that, he also had kidney issues. One kidney was barely working, one was at about, 50%. Now, with
Mhm.
all that said, he had 3 specialists, but when he actually died, he hadn't been in the hospital. He wasn't at the hospital. He went to church with me that Sunday morning. He died on a Sunday. The night before, we actually watched movies and did some other, he ate, and he went and picked us up some food. So he didn't look like he was going anywhere. He went with me to actually Debbie Boyd's birthday party that night. So
Mhm.
so I went to church earlier that morning. I led praise and worship. He was sitting right there. We sat, we matched, was matching, and then he went home. The only thing he said was he felt like he had a gas bubble, and I took that like him and my son went to Del Taco. So I'm thinking, okay, gas bubble. I went with a group of women after church. Then I got home. We changed clothes, and then we went to Debbie's 60th birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were there for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we got back home. So
Okay. And so at the time that he actually passed, were you in his company? Were you with him?
yes, so we got home. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna take a nap, and then I'm gonna get up and edit." Gerard was a music producer, and he had been editing my podcast, so he had
Okay.
things editing to do and different things like that. So I said, "Okay." He took, began to take off his clothes, whatever, to put on his pajamas. I knelt in between his legs and literally prayed. He had took off his shirt, kissed him a couple of times, and prayed over him. And in that prayer, I had said, "You shall live and not die."
Mm.
I walked out the door of the bedroom and I literally exhaled, like, because I think in my mind, because he had been sick since 2014, here and there, and had a stroke, had the aortic aneurysm, which once you have the aneurysm, it's still there. And at
Mm-hmm.
any moment, if it pops, that's it. So I
Wow.
guess in my mind, I was thinking, okay, he's maybe trying to get sick. So I kind of went out the door, exhaled, went up to the third level, it was a tri-level condo, went up to the tri-level, looked in the mirror, and literally said, "Lord," out loud. I said, "Lord, how much longer do I have?" Got in the
Wow.
shower, went in the living room and iced my knee. And I probably was upstairs for an hour before I went back downstairs. You want me to continue?
Yes, please. What happened after that?
So I went back downstairs after I iced my knee. And as soon as I came in the room, he was laying on his back, his eyes was open. And he was like, "Hey, I'm starting to feel better, but just lay down here, just stay down here with me." I was like, "Oh, baby, you want me to lay with you?" Because you met Gerard. He wasn't like a very sentimental. He wasn't that type that really told you how he felt. So for him to say that, I was like, "Oh, cool, baby, you want me to lay next to you?" Boom, boom, boom. So I laid next to him. Our son called, and I didn't even give my husband a chance. I was laying near the wall, and his phone, he was on the ed, on one side and the other side of the bed. His phone rang, and I just reached over him, grabbed his phone, answered it, and it was our son. He's like, "Where's dad?" I said, "Oh, he's right here, blah blah blah." And he was like, "Okay, I'll be home in 42 minutes." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I hung up. So I, kept talking to my husband. And then just something in me, I got up out the bed and I looked up "heart attack." And I read it out loud to him. And he was like, "No, I'm not feeling that. That's not any
Mhm.
symptoms." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I said, I'm standing and I'm like, "Do you want to go to the emergency?" He was like, "Nah, because dot, 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 X, Y, and Z." So I
Mhm.
waited few minutes and then I asked again, because usually, I don't know if you know, most men don't like the hospital, or
Right.
with him it was not something like just right away he would want to do. So I asked again. I said, "Are you sure you don't want to go to the emergency?" And he said, "Blah blah blah, da 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 da." He said, "You know what? Okay, I'll go, but let me go do number two first." So I went and stood more near him at the bed, because I was not near. I was like kind of back. So I went near him at his bedside, and I just was like, "Okay, well, get up, like, go use it." And so when he said this is what gave me an alarm. He was like, "Well, go get a box and bring it by the bed." I was like, "You want me to get a box?" "Yeah, just, bring a box or something, put it by the bed." And I still, I guess, had a questionable look. So he's like, I'll like scooch over, like, to go poo. And to me, that's odd and weird, because he
Right.
usually would go to the bathroom. So I panicked, like I ran out the room, found the Amazon box, put it by the bed. I said, "I'm calling 911." Literally got on the phone. You see how fast I talk now. I'm like speed talking. He's an aneurysm patient, stroke patient. Gave the address, blah, 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 blah. And then the nurse said, and 911 said, "Can you pull him off the bed by his ankles?" So I went to try to pull him off the bed by his ankles. I was like, I can't. Then she's like, "Okay, start doing chest compressions." I began to give him chest compressions. But before I even started the chest compressions, while I'm speed talking, he says, "It's coming." And when he said "it's coming," I immediately looked down, and he was going pee poo, you
Mm.
used to when you start to expire. And so
Right.
I looked back up, I looked at his face, and his eyes were like big. And he had 4 to 5 last breaths. Now, in this timing, the lady's like, "Do chest compressions." So he said, "It's coming." I looked down, looked back up at his face. His eyes are big. he starts to do his last breaths. I'm like on the second compression. When I hear the last breath, I put my two fingers here, and I could feel that he had no pulse. So I told the lady, he's not breathing. And she said, keep going. And I said, no, I can't do this. And then when I said that, she had said, keep going. She said, oh, go to the door and let them in. They're here, the ambulance. So literally all of that, I kid you not, probably was, it seems like 2 to 3 minutes. Now, mind you, we had got home at about 8 something at night, and he died at about 11:11. So
Go ahead.
I let the EMT in, and when I let the EMT in, as soon as they went over to him, I was like, he's a stroke patient, he's an aneurysm patient. They start asking you serious, I'm like, he had stroke, aneurysm, here's his medicines. He said he felt like he had a gas bubble earlier today. Then they start saying, oh, well, who's his doctor? And I started telling them who the doctor was. And for a minute, they just kept asking me about the doctor. And I'm like, here's his doctor, this is the number. And for some reason, they could not locate the doctor. So once they were working on him, I finally called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my middle sister. She answered. I'm like, call mom, call Rosalind. My 2 sisters, my mom got on the phone. I said, Gerard's not breathing. We began to intercede. Then the EMT, or the I guess a health person that comes in to try to talk to you, she came in, and by this point, the head EMT, I was standing in the hall right where the bed was. They had already lifted him and took him out of the condo on the ground. My son, where the garage is, soon as you open the garage, you park your car, you come in the door. The room we were in was downstairs right there. So as soon as we came in, hello. As soon as we came in, I'm sorry about that. As soon as my son came in, he could hear before he opened that other door. As soon as he opened that door, he said, wait, what's going on? So you open one door, say the door is behind this where this wall is. When he came through that door, you can see out the other door. Okay. And so, but I'm standing there with the EMT, and the EMT had said he's not breathing. So my son was like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And then the EMT said again, he's not breathing. And so my son was like, okay, what's next? Because my husband went through aortic aneurysm, went through a stroke. So we've seen him recover from these things. So my son like, okay, that's cool. I hear you, but what's next? What we got to do? Like, what you getting ready to do? So EMT was like, the only way we can, try to help him is we can't put him in the paramedics right now, or because we can't work on him. So they tried to work on him for about 45 minutes. In the midst of that time, the lady's still trying to ask me questions. And finally, I kind of gave out I finally was able to break at one point. I just kind of wailed for a second. And by this point, my mom and sisters, they had got there. Then they asked me, okay, where do you want us to put him? Because at first, because they couldn't locate the doctor, they were trying to locate the doctor to, get the information that I was giving, because they were still trying to figure out, did he die from the natural causes? What did he die from? Or was there foul play? Because that depended on where they were taking him. He died August 29th of 2021. We were just coming out of the safety of being in COVID, so it was still like they were like, oh, he's either, I'm like, what do you mean? What's up? Where you going to take him? And they're trying to see if we're going to take him to the coroner's or to the hospital or to homicide, something like that. It was 2 different places they were going to take him. And then, so she says, where should we put him? And I'm like, take him with you. What do you mean? Where should you put him?
Right.
Because, a wife, well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not even prepared for none of this. And like,
exactly.
So my mom's standing next to me. I was like, in the garage, like, because he's already on a tarp. Now I know that might sound weird or strange, because I don't know where to tell you to put my husband. I'm thinking I'm going to take him with you or whatever. So once they had located the doctor, they understood, okay, yes, he's a stroke aneurysm patient, and they then believed, okay, he did die of like the aneurysm. Because at first, trying to see if it's homicide or did I do something?
Right.
Whatever.
Yes.
So they ended up saying, my mom, when I said the garage, she's like, no. And then the lady said, you want me to put him back in the bed? I'm thinking to myself, not really. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that he's released. That's just the case by this point. I've
Right.
already seen him. I don't want to really remember him laying in the bed, just gone. I don't want to really remember that. So they went on and put him in the bed. My oldest daughter had just made it to Texas, her and her family, just Saturday. He died on a Sunday. My sister ended up calling the oldest daughter, which was out of town. Then the oldest daughter ended up calling the middle daughter. The son was already there. My middle daughter, which was 5 weeks away from having her first baby, ended up coming, and I had to meet her outside to tell her, and she kind of, broke down. We were like, think about the baby. We got her up. So we were all up on the second level. And then at a certain point, my two kids wanted to go down and sit with my husband. So my mother was like, you want to come too? And I'm like, not really. And I say that because like I said, I've already watched. The trauma for me is I literally watched him die and I couldn't help him.
Right.
So I don't really want to be there right now. That's what I was feeling. But thank you, Jesus. As a mother, I was like, I got to be there with my kids. So I went back downstairs. When I tell you, my husband was like this, like that, like a smile on his face. Mind you, they had been working on him. When he took his last breath, he didn't have a smirk or a smile on his face. He just took his last breath like that's how they kind of, when their last breaths are coming out like that. And then, but when we went down there, he was so peaceful and he was just like, And my oldest daughter actually, because we FaceTimed her, she actually took a screenshot and then my kids took turns holding his hand, and my mom was like, you want to kiss him? Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to kiss him. I really don't want to be down here. Not like that, but I kind of,
No,
you
I understand.
know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
I guess you could say I was still kind of in a numb space in a sense, because it's like everything just happened like that. And literally nobody was there when it happened. Nobody, not even the dog was there. So we sat down there with him for like 30-35 minutes. And then the coroner finally came and they took him. And
So the EMT could not take him anywhere. The coroner had to come to take the body at that point.
Since he was dead,
Yes. Okay.
Once they figured out it wasn't homicide or whatever, they were able to take him straight to the coroner. So that's what they did. And we couldn't bury him. He died August 29th. We couldn't bury him until September 21st at Rose Hill, which is 3 days before my 48th birthday. So that was also a bittersweet because we couldn't, it was just a lot. It was a lot. And his mother died 6 months before him.
Okay. Well, thank you for those details, because that kind of put everything in perspective, because everybody's experience is different. And just hearing the trauma that caused you. And so you mentioned your children. So give me how many children you guys have, how old were they at the time, and who else, other than your family that was there with you, who else did his death impact?
So it's a total of 4 kids. We each had a daughter when we got married. His, mine, and ours. Then we had two together. So 4 kids. At the time of his death, the youngest was 19. The next one, which is the middle one, who was 5 weeks pregnant, was 22. And then the other one, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. She was like, she's 5 years older. So
About 27.
27, 29, 31, 32. She was like 28 or something. She's 34 now. So he died, it's a little over 3 years. So I know my son was 19 for sure, 19.
He was the youngest. Okay.
Yeah, he was the youngest, 19. And so 4 kids, and at the time, 3 grandkids, 1 on the way, which would have made 4. So it not only impacted myself. His sister was, that's another story. But his mother had just went before him. His dad was already gone. It affected my whole family because he was, always around our family and his best friends. So it was a lot. It was a lot. It was over 300 some people at his funeral. briefly mentioning my youngest sister's husband died 4 months later. 7 months after my youngest sister's husband died, my oldest sister's son was found dead. 2 days after Gerard's 1 year anniversary of his death. So the first year I couldn't really even grieve properly because it was just a string of traumas. And actually, with his mother dying 6 months before, it was just a lot.
Right.
Lot.
So during that trying time, with watching your husband die, experiencing now being a widow, and with everything else that had impacted your life, who were the core people that were with you? What women were surrounding you, holding you down, giving you peace, holding your arms up?
Um, for sure, I definitely first have to say my mother. And I want to give a shout out to my mother because, like, the reason why I mentioned she has 3 girls. All of us lost a male in 1 year. 1 year. And my nephew that was found actually probably died on my husband's death date. He was just found on September the 1st.
Okay.
So, when I found out my husband died, I went to my mother's house and stayed 4 days. My youngest sister, I would remember laying in the bed and I would just be laying there. And at spurts of time, I would just wail. And she would just lay on my chest. She would just lay there. She would just, I got you. She did that. And then my kids, of course, we had each other. My kids at first, we just had each other. And then I had people like, I have to mention I have Debbie, actually you too, Debbie, Debbie Buckner, I would have to say the Love, Peace, and Happiness, that y'all core click right there. I don't know if Debbie came down that day, but a few people came down to my mother's house. My best friend, Sharon, my prayer partners, I just had a core group of people. I can't even name them all, but a core group of people that I could just kind of count on, call. But like I said, for us, me and my kids had to be each other's strength and peace. And like I said, the first year was kind of hard because when my sister's husband died, her kids are younger than mine. I want to stay with her for 5 weeks. My church, I sing at a lot of churches. When I say my husband didn't have life insurance. When he died, we was not prepared because he was young. He died at 53. He was young. By the time he started getting all these different ailments, if we would have got insurance, it would have just been sky high. So I say really quick to everybody, get insurance while you can because it makes a difference. All the monies that I needed for burial, for everything. When I tell you every church that I've touched down in, were sending money. I didn't have to ask. They did do a small did it GoFundMe, but so much came to my direct account. When I say the village came together and really poured out,
that's a blessing.
Yeah, I
Because
had
that's
to.
not everybody's
Yeah,
testimony.
I wanted to see. You know what God said? Ask and it shall be given. I
Yeah.
had to give my husband a birthday party because of everything that he had been through, the aneurysms, the strokes. And he had a nephrostomy bag on for 7 months, 8 months that he didn't even need. If I could, I would have sued the hospital because they put it on him when he had the stroke. It was only going to be on for one. They needed to put it on to drain the kidney, to take the stent out. It's supposed to be on for 1 day. The next day they said, "Oh, we decided we're going to keep it on for a month, because we don't want to put him at risk for another stroke." And my mindset, I said, "Well, why would you put the thing on him and then?" Not even 24 hours later, you're talking about you're going to wait. Then my insurances had to change, stuff happened. And you're not supposed to have something like that on past 3 months. He ended up having so many infections, and the last one was sepsis. So he could have even died from that. So one of the years he was in the hospital on a Christmas day, I slept in the hospital with him. Out of 11 days when he had the initial aneurysm, for 10 out of 11 days, I advocated for my husband. I advocated for him. When he died, God has given me a peace that surpasses all understanding. Why? Because I had to give my own self a pat on the back. I sing the song, "Encourage Yourself in the Lord." when you stand, no matter what, you know, we all know marriages are not easy. Marriages are not easy at all. And to be a caregiver, the last from 2014, actually probably a little bit before that, all the way to his death. For me, what people don't understand, you not only had to deal with that those many years at a young age. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Watch him die. But the night before that, the God I serve, when I came home from rehearsal, he was so excited the last 2 weeks. I know I'm bouncing back, but the last 2 weeks, this is the things that got me through. The last 2 weeks, he said to me in our studio out of nowhere, he said, I just want you to be happy. In the last 2 weeks, he started asking me and all the kids, what's your dream car? What car you want to have? It was such urgency. I was like, I just be happy to get the back my Sorrento truck. He was like, no, you want the car you got, the truck you got, the Range Rover. That's what you want. Do not settle. I just want you to be happy. I left that day. I asked him, what you say? He said it again. I left to go to rehearsal and I literally cried. And I literally was speaking to the Lord. I was like, Lord, that's all a wife, goodies, gifts, all this stuff, great. But when you know that they appreciate you beyond a shadow of a doubt, because that's just like telling you, no matter what we've been through, I see you. Because a lot of times people get married and they think marriage is going to be perfect and people going to change because you want them to change. No, the only change agent that we can ever hope to pray to is God. We cannot go into anything expecting to change anybody. And a lot of times, one or the other, it sometimes seems like an imbalance. Mm-hmm. But I have a peace that surpasses all understanding, even though I still have loneliness or this and that. And, you know, I think I am going to go get a little counseling because I watched him die. Yeah. And all the other stuff that I've been through. I will get some counseling for that. But the peace that God has given me is because guess what? I stuck it out no matter what. I can pat my own self on the back. You did that. You stuck it out. So I have a peace knowing that I did all that I can do. I could have threw in the towel a long time ago because with him being sick, there was periods of times, 11 months at a time, no sex, you know, as a young woman. But love, when the word of God says in the Bible, for better, for worse, for richer, or for poor, till death do you part. I literally pretty much lived all that. We wasn't the wealthiest of the rich, but we made up there and a little past hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands. We did good with our own business, paying for 3 cars at one point, owning a house in West Hills. So we did that. We raised our kids. We have grandkids. I can't complain. I don't care what we've been through. We've lost stuff together. We've gained together. We've created together. And right now I have beautiful kids, 6 beautiful grandkids, 3 he was not able to meet.
Right.
But one day. So I am blessed to still have my being. And I sang at his funeral. My spiritual mother was like, Dani, you know what you got to do? She said, you got to sing. That was his favorite song. Every time somebody would say, Dani, sing something, I'm like, oh, what should I sing? Sing Encourage Yourself. I was like, baby, that again? But that was his favorite song. I got up there and people came up to me and said, we came to encourage you, but you encouraged us. You want to know why? Amen. Because guess what? In the midst of the storm, God still said, but if you still do it as unto me, he said, in your weakness, my strength is made perfect. I'm still a king's kid. And the way people see and they overcome is by the words of your testimony. We Amen. Living, breathing, walking testimonies. And the more I share my testimony, I always tell people, it's like I get purple hearts. I get purple hearts. And some people might say, oh, she's telling her story again. They can say what they want to say. Amen. Testimony. It's her story, right. My story, and my goal is to share with the world. They call me Dani B, JAIA, JAIA, just as I am. My message is be who God has called you to be. We don't have to be nobody else. We only have one DNA, one blueprint. So even being here on your show today, I'm talking about it. I'm reliving it, you know, because guess what? When you have, it's like a well. And a lot of times there's still a cry. And you ask, I know that you wanted to know, how long is the grieving process? I think it just doesn't stop, because there's time. Every time a holiday, a birthday comes up, you subconsciously know without knowing. Like you don't even look at the calendar. All of a sudden you're like, why am I acting moody? Why am I crying? And a
Mhm.
week and a half is coming up. You're like, oh, his birthday's, oh, it's his Christmas, oh, it's our anniversary. January 20th that's coming up would have been our 29th anniversary.
Wow. Wow. You know what? I thank you for sharing everything, just opening up your heart and pouring out. And one key thing that you said is people may get tired of hearing it, but you're not going to stop telling it. And
Mhm.
it's not about those who get tired of hearing it, it's those who are encouraged by what you are sharing. And the word does say we overcome him, Satan, by the words of our testimony. So keep doing what God is leading you to do. And I love that, Dani B,
Thank you.
JAIA, because you are unique and we all are unique, but
Mm.
you embrace your uniqueness and you inspire so many people along the way. And my final question for you is, if you did not have that core group, if you did not have your sister who would lay on your chest, if you didn't have a mother's house to go to, how do you think navigating through this process would have been different for you without those core people?
It would be heavy. Um, God sent those are I call certain people my angels in the midst.
Mm,
Certain people, my angels in the midst. There were people, oh, my testimony even now. I don't always have like the type of job I do is entertainment.
mhm,
They like to call it in the world struggling artists. God has been faithful. He's given me supernatural favor. He's My son told me the other day, and I'm sorry if I veered off. He was like, "Mom, he feels like he's really just starting to grieve more because he dived right back into work."
mm,
Um, I don't know. I'm very grateful for everybody, and one of the things that I want to do is to be able to bless widows and fatherless, especially in the first year and a half or so, because it's like, we know that death is a part of life. We do know that
mhm.
we're gonna all die, but it's hard sometimes when you got to keep it all together, figure out your finances, pay this, keep it all together, keep going. It's a
Mhm.
But I thank God for the people that He's given me. And one of the things that God has also given me, my oldest daughter said, "Mom, you've been going since you had me. Like, I got married at 22. I've never stopped. Because then when your wife mode, and I'm already a giver and a nurturer, that's what we are. You keep going. So God has given me a lot of rest. A lot of people like, you're so busy. My weeks are not like a regular 9 to 5. So sometimes I'm just in the bed reflecting. Sometimes a little lonely. Sometimes a little. It's just a lot, and I allow myself to cry, to feel, to whatever I got to do.
And that's good. And that's healthy because sometimes people want to keep things bottled up, but then that's when you start developing sicknesses. So, yes, release the way God allows you to release. And I just want to leave you with this. I want to encourage you today with this. Sometimes you don't know how much those angels in your life really love you. Because the way I found out about your husband's passing was one of your angels, Miss Debbie B,
Mm-hmm.
text me. She sent out a text to everybody, and she does that consistently when somebody is going through. She sends out a text, and that's how I got the information because she said, pray for her. So when your circle has a circle and they reach out, it keeps going exponentially. So people
Mm-hmm.
are praying for you when you don't even realize it.
Yes.
So that is so powerful that we have people that love us that much and we reach out to our people. They may not know you, they may not know who the name is, but you know what? The faith that they have, they're going to pray for you anyway. So we are sisters. We hold
Yes.
each other's arms up. We are here to love on one another, whether we're near, whether we're far, but we are here to make a difference in each one of our lives. And I thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I pray that God's strength and God's peace will continue to be upon you as you navigate the space and the lane that He has given you for your life's journey.
Thank you so much, Dr. C. I do want to say this too, so your viewers will know this. God is so strategic. And I remember when I found out that you knew my husband or met him way long time ago, went to school with them or whatever.
Right.
Even now in knowing you, and I feel like that's why every time I see you, we don't see each other that much. But as soon as we see each other, we're like and hugging. But I feel because you're connected to my husband, and so I have little pieces of him. So I have little pieces.
Right. And God gives you that, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first time we met was the next day is the day he passed.
That no, I don't think that's the first. You talking about the party.
At the party.
That wasn't the first day. It was another something else. We met and you told me, you was like, hey, I know your husband.
Oh, you know what?
It was
We didn't meet
that.
there. We met at Debbie's. You were emceeing her
Domestic
violence event, but I didn't know that you were married to him at that time. But then his name came up, and I was like, I know that name.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
we went to junior high. We went to elementary, junior high, and high school together.
Yes.
It's like a small world. Absolutely.
So when you told me, but I definitely knew before he died that you met him. I mean, or you knew of him.
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a journey and all that, but God is so faithful, and He allowed me to send him off so beautifully. Oh my gosh, it was like amazing. Everybody was like, I'll do this. My cousin got the whole venue where the repast was. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. Doves. Oh, I'll pay for the doves. This church was like, I'll do this. This church was like, I'll do this. So it pays to be good to people. It pays.
Yes.
It
Because you
pays.
never know when it's going to come back around, and when you have a need that they can feel. Amen. Amen. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Miss Dani. You be blessed. And of course, I'll see you soon.
Yay.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you. Well, we have completed another episode of Sisters Keeper podcast. I pray that you were blessed by Dani B, JAIA, who just shared her testimony with us with the death of a spouse. And I pray that whatever you may go through, just know that God is with you and that He will carry you through the situation as you navigate. Just continue to lift Him up, praise His high and holy name, and watch Him be good to you, just as He has been to the other women that you have seen on this podcast. And please don't forget to join me for the next episode of Sisters Keeper podcast. God bless you.